It's strange how life can test your kindness when you least expect it. How one ordinary day can suddenly expose the cruelty that hides behind laughter, or the courage that still survives in silence. The smell of coffee, the clatter of cups, the hum of tired voices. That's all it was for Martha Green. Another morning at the diner. Another shift behind the counter. But she didn't know that by the time the sun set, her quiet world would become the stage for something unforgettable. Sometimes, it only takes a few cruel words to shatter years of quiet dignity. And sometimes, one act of courage can rebuild what cruelty tries to break. That day began like any other, until a coffee pot slipped, a cruel laugh echoed, and an old woman's heart cracked in front of strangers who didn't know what to do. And yet, in that small corner of a forgotten diner, something remarkable happened. Not a miracle, not a fight, but a lesson, raw, real, and powerful, a reminder that respect isn't about money, age, or strength. It's about humanity. So before you judge, before you scroll past, listen to this story. Because what happened between an old waitress, a spoiled young man, and a silent group of strangers might just remind you what it truly means to be human. The coffee pot slipped from her trembling hands, spilling a brown stain down her white apron. But it wasn't the hot liquid that burned her. It was the laughter, cruel, careless, echoing through the small diner like broken glass. 3 young men sat in the corner booth. They looked out of place. Designer clothes, loud voices, and the kind of arrogance that fills a room without permission. The oldest of them, barely 21, leaned back in his seat with a grin too proud for his age. His name was Bryce Weller, son of the richest man in town. A boy who'd grown up in privilege and confusion, never knowing what real respect looked like. When the coffee splashed on the floor, Bryce chuckled, lifted his glass, and said loudly, "Guess she's past her retirement date, huh?" His friends burst out laughing, pulling out their phones, recording, eager to turn someone else's humiliation into their entertainment. Then came the moment no one could forget. Bryce spat on her apron. "Clean that up, Grandma," he sneered. The diner fell silent. Even the jukebox seemed to stop. Martha Green, 69, widow, mother, and waitress for over 30 years, stood frozen. Coffee dripped from the pot in her shaking hands. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "I'm sorry, sir," and began wiping the counter. The other customers looked away. No one moved. It was easier to pretend not to see. But someone did see. At the far end of the diner, by the door, sat 4 men in black leather vests. Their jackets bore a patch that made everyone nervous, Hell's Angels. They were broad, silent, and calm, sipping their coffee. One of them, tall and tattooed, with steel-gray eyes that had seen both war and worse, leaned forward slightly. His name was Rex Dalton. When Bryce laughed again, Rex set his cup down. His eyes met Martha's, tired, kind, and breaking. That was all it took. The air shifted. Rex rose slowly, his boots thudding against the floor like distant thunder. The other bikers stood too, not in rage but in quiet unity. Conversations stopped. Bryce, still smirking, didn't notice until the shadow of Rex fell over his table. "Something funny here, kid?" Rex asked, his voice low, steady, and terrifyingly calm. Bryce turned, his laughter faltering. "What's it to you, old man?" Rex didn't answer right away. He picked up the fallen coffee pot, placed it gently on the counter, and turned to Martha. "Ma'am, did he hurt you?" She shook her head quickly, whispering, "Please, just let it go." But Rex didn't move away. He looked back at Bryce. "You think it's funny to spit on someone who's been working harder than you ever have in your life?" The diner watched in absolute silence. Even Bryce's friends stopped recording. Rex took a slow step forward. "That woman could be your grandmother. She's earned more respect in one day than you've earned in your whole life." Bryce tried to laugh it off, but the words cut deeper than he expected. His confidence cracked under the weight of Rex's stare. Then Rex nodded toward the mess on the floor. "You're going to clean that up." Bryce blinked. "What? You heard me. You made that mess. You clean it." His friends snickered, expecting Rex to back off. But the biker didn't move. Neither did his crew. The silence was heavier than any threat. Something inside Bryce shifted. Maybe fear, maybe shame. Slowly, awkwardly, he bent down, picked up a rag from the counter, and began wiping the spilled coffee. The entire diner watched. Martha tried to stop him. "It's all right, dear." "Really?" Rex gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "No, ma'am. Let him finish. This is how a man learns." Bryce's hands trembled as he wiped the stain. Every stroke stripped away a piece of his arrogance, his entitlement, his ignorance. He wasn't cleaning coffee. He was cleaning himself. When he finally stood, he couldn't meet anyone's eyes. His voice was low, shaky. "I'm sorry," he said. Martha smiled, tired, soft, forgiving. "Thank you, son," she whispered. Rex nodded once and turned away. The biker sat back down and slowly, the diner began to breathe again that night. After closing time, Martha was wiping the tables when the bell above the door chimed. Bryce stood there, alone, holding an envelope. His eyes were red, his confidence gone. "I wanted to make it right," he said, placing the envelope on the counter. Inside was cash, his father's money. "For what I did." Martha looked at it, then back at him. "Money can't clean what pride dirties," she said softly. "But kindness can." She didn't take the money. Instead, she offered him a cup of coffee. They sat in silence for a long time. When Bryce left, Rex was outside, leaning against his motorcycle, smoking under the streetlight. He watched the boy go, nodded once and muttered, "Maybe there's hope for him yet." A week later, when Martha arrived for her morning shift, she found a note taped to her locker. "Thank you for forgiving me. I'm volunteering at the community kitchen now. You showed me what real work looks like." Beneath the note was a donation receipt. A large sum of money sent anonymously to the town's homeless shelter, under Martha's name. She cried quietly, pressing the paper to her heart. That day, the world didn't change. But someone did. And that's the power of kindness. Silent, patient, but strong enough to turn cruelty into compassion, arrogance into humility, and shame into redemption. Martha never told anyone what happened that afternoon. She just kept serving coffee, smiling at strangers, and living with the quiet grace of someone who had seen a miracle born not of magic, but of respect. But the story spread, through whispers, through the biker's retelling, through the memory of every customer who'd sat frozen that day. And whenever someone mentioned the old waitress at the corner diner, people didn't talk about the boy who spat on her. They talked about the woman who forgave him, and the man who reminded the world what respect truly means. If you ever find yourself in a moment where you can choose between silence and courage, between cruelty and kindness, remember this story. Respect costs nothing, but its absence can cost a soul. Be the one who stands up like Rex. Or the one who forgives like Martha. Because the smallest act of kindness can silence even the loudest cruelty, and sometimes it can change a heart forever.